Mr President, tonight I speak about the issue of best practice juvenile justice. Across Australia, governments are legislating measures that will result in the increased incarceration of juveniles. In Queensland, the LNP was elected on the slogan of adult time for adult crimes. They have legislated it in violation of the Human Rights Act to incarcerate young people convicted of scheduled criminal offences to the same penalties as adults. The LNP government plans to add more offences to those scheduled. In the Northern Territory, the newly elected Country Liberal Party in October last year legislated to reduce the age of criminal responsibility to just 10 years old. In Victoria, like recent changes in New South Wales, they're looking at making bail more difficult for youth charged with certain offences. History tells us that these measures are never effective in the long term. In fact, in many cases, these measures just increase crime because once people are in the system, it's often harder for them to obtain an education or a trade skill, and near impossible when they come out to obtain work due to their criminal conviction. Simply locking up kids without a clear plan leads to increased recidivism and in turn a spiral of increasing criminal justice interactions. Locking up kids and doing little else is a guaranteed recipe for failure. It doesn't make anyone safer, and it guarantees that when youth become adults, they have few prospects other than their criminal networks. In New South Wales, we should look at the important research and policy work done by groups such as the Justice Reform Initiative, who provide a roadmap that may allow us to break this cycle. We must also look to other jurisdictions and both government and non-government organisations that have expertise in juvenile justice to determine what may work well here. For example, in Tasmania, their Parliament's Sessional Committee on Government, Administration B, recently completed its landmark report on adult imprisonment and youth detention. Established in 2022, the committee examined in detail the causes leading to youth incarceration, the challenges in custody and provision of wraparound services, and systemic failure in its prison systems. Its report was released in March this year, and it makes some 103 findings and 46 recommendations across the main areas of, quote, systemic deficiencies and the need for reform, recidivism and ineffective rehabilitation, social and structural factors contributing to incarceration, service provision and post-imprisonment or detention support, and staff training and support, end quote. One whole section of their report is devoted solely to youth justice. We need to start seriously looking at alternatives to incarceration, but we must also explore best practice approaches for juveniles who are and will be in detention. Ultimately, the only way that we'll reduce recidivism and break the cycle of crime in parts of our community is to create successful pathways out of detention for young people. We must also move towards reforms that will address disadvantage and underinvestment in our communities. We need to break the cycle of incarceration by helping to uplift young people in communities across our state. The Legislative Assembly's recent report from the Inquiry into Community Safety in Regional and Remote Communities says as much. Among the findings, there are a number of recommendations that go directly to what we can be doing to better serve young people in these communities and help to genuinely address the disadvantage that leads to youth crime in the first place. Funding for youth services, providing for youth hubs, nighttime youth outreach, and increasing educational and employment opportunities for young people. Investment in increased services, not incarceration or increased policing. It's time for New South Wales to look at best practice juvenile justice systems elsewhere so that we can learn from them and create our own roadmap that will work here to reduce and eliminate the cycle of youth incarceration.
Thank you.